I know many of you have been aware of what we've been working on in the quiet zone for a few years now. But we have an opportunity coming up where one of our commissioners has asked for a workshop. And this is an opportunity for us to close the loop with members of the staff and hopefully some of our commissioners that would like to know more about where we are in this process. But we've briefed all the current commissioners. We have a new commissioner. We haven't briefed her yet. But I want to share with you guys just some of this, a little bit of the detail behind what we've been doing and the story we've been telling. And the core team is myself, Jessica, and David. We seem to like each other because we're on everything. Okay, now just so you know, the quiet zone horn process didn't come into being at a national level until 2007. And at that point, places that had crossings were required to implement a process where the trains were required to honk 2 long, 1 short, 1 long. And that's happening across our lake at the Atchinson crossing many times a day. It can be suspended. That rule can be suspended, and that creates a quiet zone. And the Federal Railroad Administration has clear rules on how to do that, and we've been following those rules. So let's see, sorry, this last one. The thing about a quiet zone, we've determined, and we've got plenty of evidence of that, quiet zone actually reduces the risk of an incident by the addition of a supplementary safety measure, which we're going to show you in a second. Okay, thank you. This is actually the chart I love Jessica to present.
Let's see, it's been a minute, Ryan. So let's see, we, according to the FRA, we have approximately 44 trains a day that cross at the Atchinson Road crossing. So they run 24 hours a day. We're hearing 4 horns every time the train crosses. It's a lot of horns every day. The required or the maximum sound level of the crossing is 110 decibels. I think it's required that the train hit 100 decibels at the crossing when they're a certain distance ahead of it. So it's a pretty loud incident every time. We've determined it's a significant quality of life issue. We've talked to people in the area. Obviously, you all know the quality of life issue that this poses to our community. This is a picture of the bus stop near the Atchinson Road crossing that our kids stand at in the morning, and the train crosses right next to it. We talked to neighbors just adjacent to that on Brianna Court who, same thing, are very impacted by this crossing.
So part of what we did early on was to assess what the impact of the horn sound is. How broadly is it impacting people's lives? And Dave Nightingale did some of this work. But we have a standard that the FRA has established for the intensity of sound as a function of distance. And so we applied that, and we chose a couple of different approaches, but one approach shown in that figure is a 1 mile radius. And around that 1 mile radius, we have taken data. We know that the decibel levels, for example, around the lake are as high, are in the 80 dB level. They're not attenuated very much, but they're affecting a large community all around the lake. And in fact, so next chart here, we went to the EPA tool for the communities that tells what's the population in that zone. And there's about 7,500 people that live in that and are affected by sound levels that probably at least 70 dB or higher. And the quality of life issues are quite significant. It's not just the disturbed conversation you're having. If you want to open your windows in the summer to let in the air, you can't do that. You got to, if you have air conditioning, you're going to be running it, or you're going to be very uncomfortable, or you're not going to sleep. People close by, the disruption is, the sound really does impact people's sleep. So there's a lot of personal factors, and we've talked to the commissioners about it, and Commissioner Mejia is here, and they understand that issue. And the real issue is liability, which we're going to talk about next. The key to a quiet zone is you need to improve the safety of the quiet zone, of the crossing, in some way that, by analysis with the FRA, that reduces the likelihood of a vehicle incident. And this is, turns out, this is a crossing in Kent. the city of Kent. I was up there and I visited. I've talked to the chief engineer there. And they implemented at 8 crossings a supplementary safety measure. And that's what this curb is. It's a non-traversable, it's just a concrete curb. It's 8 inches high and probably 8 or 10 inches wide. And it runs 100 feet from the intersection. That's all that's required. They just added that. They didn't have to change the lights or anything else associated with the crossing. And they've done that multiple times. And that's the kind of supplementary safety measure we think we need at our crossing. And we've worked with Public Works. We've talked about that. They agreed with that approach. And so we know that there's a way to improve the safety of the crossing at a relatively, fairly straightforward manner. So what's the liability question? This is, all the commissioners recognize that. It's something that I have to appreciate. They have to deal with as the people who are responsible for the resources in the county. So we've been working to try to understand the issue and document it in some way that they can accept the story. The interesting thing is there's over 1,000 quiet zones in the United States. They're all over the country, but most of them are in Texas and California. We found some experts in the insurance area and in the development of quiet zones. And both of them confirm that the accidents that the railroads care about most are not vehicle accidents. They don't happen that often. They're actually people that are trespassing. Our crossing is not a pedestrian crossing. It's strictly a vehicle crossing. The other thing they confirm is that there's no evidence of any lawsuits that they can find that have been brought against a municipality because of a quiet zone. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in a second. But hang on just a second, go back. But back in April 26th, when we were briefing the commissioners in a particular meeting, the prosecuting attorney's office actually gave an opinion, which I think most people had forgotten. And that was that their potential liability may increase due to new county responsibility for maintenance of the crossing approach infrastructure, i.e. the curbing, the untraversable curb. Signals will still be the responsibility and liability of the railroad and not the new approach infrastructure. And that's really a key understanding that we need to make with our commissioners, to say that you're not changing the liability risk you already have for everything that goes up to the crossing, the street, the signage and whatnot. We're adding one supplementary safety measure, which in fact reduces the likelihood of an incident, increases the safety. So next chart. This is my bottom line chart. I'm a bottom line guy. So we've had agreement from speaking with the commissioners and with people in the risk management office that the likelihood of an event at this crossing is very low. There's only 120 cars a day that come across that crossing. They're going at, in general, on the order of 20 miles an hour. This is not a crossing. There's thousands of vehicles that are traveling at 50 miles an hour across the crossing. There's just a handful of vehicles that are driving rather slowly. I used an AI tool. You guys have all heard of Snapchat and something, but I have access to some AI tools in my business. So I actually asked the AI system, what is the answer to the question? Can you sue for injury stemming from an accident at a railroad crossing? I asked all kinds of other questions, but that was the most basic question I could ask. And the answer was yes. However, your lawsuit will only be successful if someone has been negligent. If there's negligence on the part of whoever's responsible, like the railroad, or in our case, maybe somebody not maintaining our supplementary safety measure, that's the only time there's a risk of a successful lawsuit. And so we believe, and that's the point I want to make, we'll make in a meeting coming up, is that the likelihood of an incident is very low. But the likelihood of a successful lawsuit is also very low. There's really very low risk of a problem, and we're trading that against the quality of life issue. Next chart, last chart, I think. So, next to last. So Commissioner Close had come to a meeting, our picnic actually, and talked about having a workshop, bringing the Quiet Zone team together with the risk management office at the county level, Public Works, maybe some of our other commissioners can be there as well. in which we can actually talk through the story that you're hearing here today in much more detail. We have a lot more material. The goal of the workshop is really to address the liability issue and get agreement to go ahead with what we call the diagnostic review. The diagnostic review is what we've been asking for. It's where we bring the county commissioner or the county public works together with the railroad, the Federal Railroad Administration, and us, our quiet zone team, and assess what is the right answer in this crossing. What is the right way to provide a quiet zone? And we believe we know what the right answer is, but we have to have the diagnostic review done. That'll also tell us what the cost is, what's the cost to implement that curb. And then we can bring that story to the commissioners to say, do they agree, first of all, with the review, and then are they willing to go forward with the implementation of quiet zone? So that's what we've been working on, and I think we're very close to at least having a new opportunity to bring that story to the commissioners. And I think we've got a good story, and I think we have an opportunity to end the horn noise as we have learned to tolerate.
Except in case of an emergency, because they can always blow it.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, that's a good point. Yes, it doesn't prevent them from blowing it if they need to. So anyway, I just want to share with you that background story and let you know we're moving out that December 6th. We'll report back, let you know how it goes. Yes, ma'am.
Who conducts the diagnostic review?
The Public Works does, but what we have made the offer to, and I know well the Chief Engineer of Public Works, he's got 3 engineers who are willing to help facilitate that process, and we're willing to do that. So it's not an issue for Public Works, their talent, their people, we're going to help, we can help facilitate. We can make the appointments, we can make sure the right people are there, we'll keep the notes, we'll write the report.
The process is led by the jurisdiction that owns the road, which is the county. So that's why it's Public Works, and they're the lead agency. Federal Railway Administration participates, and the railroads participate, and the Utilities and Transportation Commission, the state who regulates railroad crossings, is also part of it. And then we're hoping that the 3 of us will be there to help serve the pond.
We've seen these reports that are done in other counties. It's a complicated process. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Clarification? Sure. What makes the crossing non-pedestrian? Is that because there's no sidewalks leading up?
Basically, yes.
Okay.
It's not intended as like for example, in Kent, all those crossings are pedestrian crossings. So they have a separate set of gates for pedestrians and whatnot. There's a walkway for pedestrians. So yeah, it's not a pedestrian crossing. Okay. Thank you.
Brian, real quick, what's been holding up the diagnostic?
Well,
So
the
we've
county.
been talking about this for 2 years.
I know. The county commissioners have to get together and vote on whether to go forward with that.
With just a no-risk diagnostic.
Yes.
Meaning there's no risk to the county.
That's right.
There's no.
You're under no obligation.
You're not hiring anybody. We don't have to do anything else. All we're looking to do is do some paperwork. And it's taken 2 years.
It's,
So I can answer that. So one of the concerns that we have, the concerns that other communities have is the insurance coverage. So when we're talking about liability is the fact that our risk pool, right, which that is the insurance that covers everything, has said that they would not cover this. And so that's been kind of the reason why we've held pace and, we've talked with the people who have been like working with Ryan and David and
Jessica.
Jessica, sorry.
That's okay.
Right, and I know they've been in contact with Bristol and different areas around the state to see kind of like what did other places do. The questions that we've asked from Skagit and I believe Whatcom County, whenever I reached out to them, because they're the 2 counties who actually have quiet zones in Washington State, and see how they got them covered, is that they didn't, right? And so then their prosecutor kind of shushed the whole thing and wouldn't really talk to our prosecutor. And so then there was more concern from the commissioners of like, well, like how do we move forward with this process? And I know that you all have been working really hard. So that's really what's taken place is.
So the diagnostic has nothing to do with the insurance, correct?
Well, that's one piece, right? So our concern is like, are we going to expend some time on a diagnostic review if we're not going to be able to move forward Right, and so in order for us to approve something, right, it does take staff time, and it is, in a way, deprioritizing other projects. And so for us, as we're talking about the long term of where we're going to move on to next, right, if we confirm on moving forward with the diagnostic review, it is to affirm that we're possibly going to move forward to the next step. And so that's also been just a concern from our public works director as well.
Well, we're hoping that this workshop will have public works there, we'll have risk management. Because we've asked questions of risk management and not gotten the responses we were looking for. And so there's nothing I could find in the risk pool charter that addresses quiet zones, it's not mentioned here. So why it wouldn't be covered, but on the other hand, the likelihood of ever needing it, we can get insurance, it is possible. But there's only 3 cities in the entire United States that actually have insurance. It's not something that people do normally.
And as I understood and from what I've read from you, the risk to the county, according to what was stated, is about the same as a sidewalk. Because you have to maintain sidewalks. If your sidewalk is in disrepair, it can be based on negligence. So it is a road enhancement that just needs to be maintained.
Yeah, that's right.
Just like any other road enhancement.
That's been our point too.
Okay.
That's part of why I think in terms of the risk pool, we're not really changing the
Understood.
nature of the risk except for adding concrete curb.
Right.
We'd like to keep it,
According
maybe
to-
some additional signage.
Got it.
But it's a very low activity crossing,
Yeah.
and you've got a community that really cares about it.
That's right.
And we're more than happy to maintain this.
Yeah, and I was just trying to figure out like what's taken.
No, it's been a liability
Yeah.
question. And so I think Commissioner Minzer, or he is absolutely right. They don't want to go down a path that looks that unless they understand better the liability.
I really want to thank you guys for, it's been a long time working on this, so
Yeah.
to the group that's been working on it, thank you for your persistence and for your patience with the process. And
Yeah.
all the research. It's really hard work.
Yeah. Well, I think we're getting to the point where we're going to maybe have a breakthrough.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you all.
One quick question.
Oh yes, sir. Sure.
The concrete barrier, how does that reduce the risk?
It's the risk that is built into the risk analysis that the FRA has is of instances where you've got 2 gates, not a 4-gate system, a 2-gate system, and drivers will drive around the gates because they're in a hurry, they're frustrated or whatever. This is a non-traversable barrier. They can't really just be sitting there and say, "Oh, I'm just going to go around." And it is. Right. It is a vehicle crossing. That's the issue that the safety measure is protecting against. So yeah, it's a simple solution, and we see them, all over the country. But Kent is the best example of it coming in place today, and working.
And basically, the FRA establishes that they have risk analysis that's been done that says if you implement these additional measures that improves the safety to a level where it's more safe than the initial measure with the horn. So the new measure without the horn is safer than the previous
Yes.
measure with.
By about a factor of 3.
By putting in a curve, like people can have their audio cranked up and they can go right around it. But by putting in the curve, they have the audio cranked up and they don't hear just the train coming and the crossings down and all the bells and all the lights and all the things there. They can't just go.
Got it.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
we're trying to prevent human error.
And there's
There's
a tool that they put out. You can actually go online and put everything in for any crossing, see where it's at, see what the safety measures are.
It's kind of like the no left turn Carpenter Road.
What was that again?